I love family gatherings and catching up with friends and being a support to lots of people. But I have battled with my weight for quite some time. I'm probably around about, I have to say, 30 years. And while my health has been okay during that, I mean, it's not been fabulous, but it's been okay. The warning signs were there that my quality of life was reduced potentially. I don't know if you've heard of it recently. My health span, my span of healthy life would be potentially impacted unless I did something about my weight. And so, like many people my size, my weight set point had gone up too far. And it was probably because of the stress that I was under, my sedentary lifestyle, and very unhelpful eating habits. So I knew I needed to do something about it. And weight loss surgery was where I ended up making a decision to do.
Welcome to the Bariatric Nutrition Coach podcast, where we empower you with weight loss surgery, nutrition knowledge, mindset advice, and inspiration so you succeed in your weight and health journey. I'm your host, Jane Stoltz, and I am a bariatric dietitian who has helped over 1,300 people on their weight loss surgery journeys. I'm also a solo mum, lover of long walks while listening to podcasts, partial to a glass of wine, and the ocean is my happy place. Join me as I dive deep into bariatric nutrition and lifestyle topics and deliver them to you in bite-sized, palatable episodes every Monday. Now let's go. Welcome to this week's episode of the Bariatric Nutrition Coach podcast. And it's another one of those very special episodes where I have wonderful clients or past clients joining me on the podcast to share their journey, their story, and it's such a valuable resource for so many people. I get so many comments that these podcast episodes are the most valuable, the most appreciated, and the downloads show that they're also the most listened to. I'm going to be asking the lovely Kathryn to do a little intro of herself, and then I'm going to share my memories of the beginning of Kathryn and I working together. So welcome, Kathryn, to the podcast.
Thank you, Jane. It's a real pleasure and a real thrill to be here. I appreciate this opportunity. A little bit about myself. Well, I'm a technology professional. I'm married with 3 grown adult sons, and I've got 2 grandchildren and 1 on the way in March. I love family gatherings and catching up with friends and being a support to lots of people. But I have battled with my weight for quite some time. I'm probably around about, I have to say, 30 years. And while my health has been okay during that, I mean, it's not been fabulous, but it's been okay. The warning signs were there that my quality of life was reduced potentially. I don't know if you've heard of it recently. My health span, my span of healthy life would be potentially impacted unless I did something about my weight. And so, like many people my size, my weight set point had gone up too far. And it was probably because of the stress that I was under, my sedentary lifestyle, and very unhelpful eating habits. So I knew I needed to do something about it, and weight loss surgery was where I ended up making a decision to do.
Yes. And you're an example of a client that we have worked together from the absolute beginning of your journey. And when I was getting prepared for this, our chat, the podcast, Kathryn, I reflected on when we first spoke. And you might not have known this, but I was actually in my car talking to you. So, and I offer this all the time when people are interested in knowing more about working with me, fill out an application form. We can chat further in social media. I offer a free chat. And you took me up on the free chat. And I can't remember if I was running late getting home to do it. But anyway, I ended up being under a tree in the car chatting to you. And I still remember your lovely, calm voice, and you're quite methodical, and you're still working then. And I remember you being, I think it was about a couple of weeks before surgery, and really going, this is what I'm doing. I want to really set myself up, and I'm really taking things, the bull by the horns, and really wanting to have that support from day one. And I think you were just starting, or you were about to start your pre-op diet. And we started working together. You talked a little bit there as well, Kathryn, about what happened with your weight over your life, but I'd love to dig in a little bit more to your why of having surgery. So we talked about health, and you've got family, and it's such a big decision to have bariatric surgery, to take that leap to, it's no one's first choice from weight loss. Often you've dieted. So yeah, I'd love to hear a bit more about the why, and has the why changed at all over time?
Well, it certainly is about making sure that I can live my life to the fullest. And I came up with one of the goals that we talked about was to be fit, flexible, and fabulous. I think we all want to be like that, but that sort of resonated with me. And that was one of the reasons, that the why behind it. And no matter how many healthy or unhealthy weight loss programs I had been over the last 20 odd years, and there were many of them, the weight would always return. So for me, not only did it return, they often gave me bonus extras, as we all know can happen as well. So some time ago, I started talking to my local hospital's endocrinology department, and I went through a variety of medications and even ended up on Ozempic, which gave me early positive results, but it did not sit well with my gut, and I ended up having some dreadful vomiting episodes. So after thinking long and hard, and also participating in this rigorous pre-surgery program, I did get my surgery last year on the 27th of May. And look, weight loss surgery is a very significant step. There's no two ways about it. You're surgically reshaping your internal organs, and it's a very daunting step. And I do not take it lightly. So while my hospital did provide me a lot of significant work preparing me for the surgery, the level of support that I needed just wasn't there. And that's why I came across your program, and I needed a closer relationship with someone like you. I did your 3-day course, and I thought, that is fabulous. I'm blown away. I need to know more. And that's why I started on the boot camp with you, and it's been fantastic. The information you share is clear and easy to understand. You're kind and supporting, and it's really set me up in those early days. I had PDFs from the hospital, but not enough. You want to ask questions, you want to nut it out, you want to confirm. Your support has been a lifeline in that regards.
Oh, you're welcome. And you hit the nail on the head. I talk about that all the time on social media, why you need more than a piece of paper. And often, yeah, you get more than one piece of paper. You might get a nice booklet. But the cookie cutter approach, some people get themselves through, and that's okay. But for many people, they definitely need more just from a diet perspective of what to eat. But sometimes, like, just so those foods don't necessarily suit you, you don't like the taste, you're still struggling with nausea, fluid intake, all of those things. But for me, Kathryn, because I rattle on about it all the time, is about the behaviour change that comes with that. That's what you can't get from a booklet. I have to say, we've worked together now, and you're 8 months, I call it flying, going to be flying solo. And that's my goal, is that you get those basics and you get those foundations. So you've done amazing, and you really took both my guidance and coaching, you took it and you ran with it. And so that was really wonderful. I'd love to ask you, because you've done so fantastically well and you've got all these wonderful, lovely benefits from your bariatric surgery, but it's also great just to be really realistic and say, what have the hardest adjustments been for you? What are the hardest things? Or even what are the surprising things that have come up after having surgery that you just didn't know was going to come up as a challenge?
So I'm going to start with the hardest adjustments as you talk. Not drinking while you're eating is a tricky one. And look, you explained it perfectly, as did our other professionals, but it is a tricky one. However, with your great advice and with some nifty use of timers, you can work it through. I'll go out with friends to a restaurant and we'll have a drink first, and then I know I need to order, and even if it comes fast, just chat for a while, and people don't really notice. Chat for a while before your time is up, and then you're able to move forward. And sometimes if you're there for a long time, you've then got to wait for 30 minutes after you've eaten, or more even at times, to have another drink. But you find ways around it. You find ways to engage people in conversation, because that one is important. I know that's a significant one that I have got on top of, and I need to stay on top of. The other thing that I struggled with was getting my bowel motions working well. I used to be very regular, but with the lesser amount of food I'm consuming, even with the extra water that I'm drinking, it has caused issues. But you've been there, Jane, and I really appreciate you've given me advice. You've given me suggestions when that didn't work. You've given me other suggestions, and you've reviewed my food and fluid logs to make sure that I'm getting the right. So just knowing I can come back to you for those ongoing problems and getting different suggestions if what you first suggested didn't work has been brilliant. That's where I really appreciated your ongoing support. But surprising, well, I think the joy of seeing my GP after she did the blood work, this story. So I went to see her about 3 months after I had weight loss surgery, and she said, with this big smile on her face, after my doctor had reviewed my results, she said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Oh, I'm feeling fine." And she said, "Well, you should be fine. Look at this." And she had printed out the first page of my results. Usually you don't get them printed out. And she said, "Look at your cholesterol, look at your liver function, look at your sugar, it's right down." And she put her hands in the air. And it made me realize I didn't make it. Doctors don't get happy very often. That was a wonderful thing, absolutely. But also, I think the ability to be active and to be a gym goer. I've never been a gym goer. Found a wonderful gym that's just perfect for me and my age and what I want to achieve. And also, your advice was very specific, and I felt it. I followed it very clearly because I didn't want regurgitation or vomiting, and I'm happy to say that did not happen. And I feel that now that I'm 7 months after, it may not happen at all, but I still have to be sure that I'm not overloading myself and listen to my tummy and feel satisfied rather than full, which is the full that I used to feel, the really bloated full that I was seeking. Now it's about satisfaction.
I'm so happy you brought up bowel function. I know that it's not the sexy stuff. It's not the thing that you want to be talking. I mean, I'm used to it because dietitians are what goes in and what comes out. But it is such a common challenge, particularly after a sleeve gastrectomy, Kathryn. It's great to talk about it. And it does get better in time because in time you can eat more. But we need to use lots of different strategies and try different things in the early days to get things moving. Because one, you're often in those really early days, you're not moving as much. We can still be walking and those things, but your intake of fluid can be down as well as your total intake. And we ask protein, and we still want to start building up some of the other fruit, veg, or whole grains, but that takes time. So it is a common challenge, and people suffer I call it suffer in silence, and we don't want to do that. So that is really great to reach out, get support. One thing works for someone, another thing works for someone else. Sometimes we need a combination of things, but just know that it does get better in time. And I also want to make the point for people listening that you can get a new normal after bariatric surgery. And I say really the criteria is not so much how often you go, but as long as you go regularly and you're comfortable. People often think, I've got to go every day to be considered regular. Well, you don't. You can go every 2 or 3 days or whatever. But as long as you're regular and comfortable, then that's okay. So thank you so much for bringing that up. And thank you for sharing also about your GP. And isn't it lovely when your GPs get excited for you?
So rare. It's wonderful.
And they know you can get so stuck on the scales and wanting them to move. The blood tests are what we can't always, the results and all those hugely significant non-scale victories and improving of your risk factors, you can't always see, but when you put it in paper in front of you, wanting you to really see it, because hopefully if you think about it and look at it enough, not only the head gets it, but the heart gets it of the impact you've made on your factors and your lifespan. So beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that, because there are things that people enter their bariatric journey kind of having an idea of what they think is going to be the hardest. And often I find it's not always the hardest. Something else comes up that you never expected. And for me, I think of it like, let's talk strategies to manage it, not think this is going to be something I just struggle with for the rest of my life.
And that's why I really appreciated our relationship, Jane, because all of us will have looked on social media and listened to people's stories. And social media is very much about an individual story. And though it's lovely to hear from them and you can get some great useful advice, it's one story, it's their story. And your story is going to be very different. But Jane, because of your experience and you've dealt with hundreds of people and you're a dietitian and you're specializing on bariatric nutrition and you're a great coach, I know that you can work through a number of things. I just can see that you're going to provide advice on a wide range of topics to help in all sorts of situations. So I really appreciated that. And I think that's where your big point of difference is, because it's not an individual story. You gather stories, but you have a foundation that will apply to everybody and advice that can apply to everybody. So that was just a brilliant part of our relationship.
Oh, you're so welcome, Kathryn. And I want to say, because when I talk to people on the phone for a free call, I go through all the different parts of the program, but one of them is the group, because we do every level in my coaching has one-on-one support, but also there is a group coaching call every week. And I want to say thank you, because you contributed so beautifully to those. And I know other people really enjoyed and got a lot out of that, because it's not just the group coach call, me getting on and doing coaching on topics and answering specific questions. It's also about, in the boot camp, encouraging each other and asking each other and getting an update on things. And so I want to say thank you so much for that.
I mean, that's one of the great things that you've provided is, look, you've got some great materials online that people can watch the videos and read the documents and the worksheets and things like that. And they're all brilliant, and I feel confident that they are on a good foundation. But I think the way that we can connect one another, that's an important thing for me. And it's the one-on-one chats. It's the messaging that you can do. It's the Facebook groups, it's the podcasting. I know you've done some IG live chats as well. But being able to share and hear different perspectives, for me, it's really important. And I appreciated getting to know the people on the chats and seeing their changes and learning from them as well.
Yeah, no, lovely, wonderful. I would love to ask you more about your experiences navigating eating socially after bariatric surgery, because that is something you've done quite a bit of. You got out and you started, even in the early days, dabbling in that being social post-bariatric surgery, because that can be a really big step. Many people, how am I going to handle this, handle that? And especially when you've got grandchildren in the mix and all of that. And I'd love to hear more about your experience, Kathryn, of integrating bariatric surgery essentially into your life, not your life into bariatric surgery.
Well, that's really interesting, because I was a member of the Clean Plate Club. So I would order something that I knew would fit my needs, but then I couldn't eat all, because often they're massive serves. And then I'd sit there feeling a little worried, thinking, what am I going to do? This is food waste. I've always finished all my food. I've always cleaned my plate, because that's the way that our family worked. But some of your advice was very useful, which is, and certainly you can take it away. Even if I don't eat it later, I can take it away and say, I've had enough, I'll take this away. Often people at home would enjoy my leftovers, but not always, depending on how things went. I did struggle with talking and eating, because I'd find I was eating faster, because you sort of have a mouthful, eat fast, then you think, all right, well, those people are talking, I'll just try and finish this quickly so I can be part of the conversation. That was a hard one to start off with, and that's why the classic knife and fork down, hands together, try and even count. I mean, you can't really use your timers when you're out much, but I had at times used them right at the beginning when I was just a little nervous, counting, because you'd feel the general excitement around the table, so everything speeds up. But it's important for you to slow down and enjoy it. But I will say I have this amazing taste and I love tasting the food, but I know I can't eat a lot. So sometimes more expensive restaurants are nicer because they'll serve a smaller portion of really tasty food for the same amount that you get a big one. And I've also loved fragrances or smells. I love the smell of burnt toast in the morning, but I don't have to have it every time. I love the smell of something, but I don't feel compelled to eat it, which is a real blessing from the surgery. Now, I know that may change over time, but at the moment it's about enjoying it at arm's length and having a small, tasty portion that I really enjoy being part of. It was tricky, and it still continues to be tricky because I tend to get excited and eat fast, but there are techniques and ways to try and calm yourself and be part of the conversation. Even if you're the last person and everybody's gobbled theirs down. Just recently I went out at Christmas time and everyone gobbled, even the thin people had gobbled theirs down really fast. And they're going, oh, you're eating really slowly. And they weren't people I'd shared my journey with, but I said, oh, I just know that we have to take it easy to really settle things down in our gut. And they went, oh, that's true. Yes, we should think about that. And they're lovely friends. So I think that was a bonus to actually be able to share with them a healthy eating habit, even though they didn't know I had weight loss surgery.
Definitely. And most people eat too quickly. And what you're talking about is that quality, not quantity, and bringing mindfulness and consciousness into the eating activity. And that can be really hard when you're in a busy social environment. And I like to talk about things are a practice. It's not about perfection, and things get easier in time. But if we've done things a certain way, if we've eaten in a certain way for years and years, just takes time, and it can feel really uncomfortable. It can feel painfully slow. And I was coaching with another client this week, and we talked about really putting that timer on to 2 minutes a bite. It was like, I don't know if the same Chinese water torture, where it just feels painfully slow. And it feels like, and I related it to when you go to golf or tennis, you get asked to do a different grip, and you can feel like, what's happening and how do I navigate this meal? So they're really wonderful because it's a big challenge. A lot of different things change, and we ask a lot of change of people after bariatric surgery. So I know you've really tackled really well eating out and different types of eating situations. So that's why I thought it'd be lovely for you to share. So what benefits have come out of your bariatric surgery, Kathryn? Like what had weight loss? What else? Activity? I'd love to hear.
Well, it's really interesting what becomes a success factor, doesn't it? As of today, I've lost 36 kilos, which is 29.5% of my body weight. But the big thing for me is that I've moved into the overweight but not obese BMI, which is outlined in the Australian guidelines. Now, I know the BMI has lots of people say it's not a big deal, but it was an interesting measure for myself. I am certainly aiming to get to the healthy BMI by the time my first anniversary comes around, but I know that doesn't have to be the only target. For me to be able to go to the gym, because I know I'm losing weight, you don't want to lose the muscle. So I found this wonderful gym that just suits me and my age, and it's all about building muscle. And I've become someone that can go to the gym. I've never been a gym person. It's not a classic gym, meaning there's no music and there's no mirrors, and a lot of people my age or older, which is nice, but that's been just wonderful to feel that my body is getting stronger. It's not been strong for a long time. My eldest son saw me the other day and he said, Mum, when I see you these days, you look strong. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Not just he knows they've already mentioned you looking well, which is lovely, but to feel that I'm going to be strong is a fabulous thing. And the other things that I've felt is being able to be part of people's lives, but not be driven by this desire to, oh, that looks really tasty. I really want to eat a lot of that. I have to go back and have some. Well, that's not enough. I need to eat some more. So this sort of underlying drive to consume is not there. And now I know that that may change in the future, but I'm very hopeful that it won't be too significant because I'm enjoying my life so much now. I'm enjoying being out and nibbling a few things. Or I went to one of my son's birthdays recently and he bought a few things for the table for people to share. And I went, yeah, there's a lot of bread there, a lot of things I don't like. Let me buy some other things for the table, which of course everybody loved and I could eat. So just having those techniques to be able to be part of the fun, but not driven to consume, has been a wonderful thing. And yes, I am finishing up with you soon, Jane. I have said I want to fly solo after 8 months, but I also know you're there. So when I get to maintenance, which I've not done for a long time, I know that I can come back and we can tackle that separately. But at the moment, I do feel like I want to spread my wings with the information and the data and the details and the encouragement you've given me. I feel like I can step forward and give that a really great positive future.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kathryn. And yeah, that's wonderful to fly off. I call it fly solo, practice the foundation eating habits. And yeah, where to find me if you ever need a tune-up. That's what some people say, I need a tune-up. But it's wonderful. Now, thank you so much for sharing your journey, for sharing the experience we've had together and the things that you've found challenging, the benefits you've got. I know people are going to find value in this story, and especially I always start when I have clients on, is where it started, your why, because that is what we want to keep hold of and keep present, because that can really also help us get through the tough times and the challenging times. The why we want to focus on is generally not the number on the scales, it's what we're going to get out of that, being out of the surgery, being strong, being healthier. So that's wonderful. And you've got your lovely GP to be your cheerleader too, which is wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing on the podcast. Thank you so much for working so hard during your boot camp. It's been absolutely fabulous. If you could give anyone, you weren't ready for this question, Kathryn, so let's pass if you go. If you could give anyone that's thinking about having bariatric surgery or are in their very early days any advice, what would it be?
I think I'd like to encourage them, the fact that they've probably, like me, tried and lost weight, but then put it back with, as I said, bonus extras. And I felt such a failure, such a failure. And yet the information that's out there at the moment say it's not our fault, that there are things that are like this new set point where my body just says, you've lost weight, I don't like it, I want to put it back, even though it's not a healthful set point. So I'd heartily recommend that they consider it, because it is darn hard. It really is darn hard. But I'd also heartily recommend that they reach out to you, Jane, because your boot camp and the information that you've got, but basically not just that you're a fabulous nutritionalist, you're a great coach, you're a great cheerleader. You always find the positive. You've made it very clear. Don't hold back. Don't try and put the best foots forward in your food blog. Don't put your best day in the food blog, because you're there to help us move forward and to achieve. And we've sometimes felt we've been naughty at times in the other weight loss groups that we've been in, and we've failed. And you are there to help us continue and to succeed and build a better life. It's about having a healthy life rather than just a long and unhealthy life. To be able to be with your friends and family, yes, it's been great to put on new outfits, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is to be healthy and strong and to feel in a great position to enjoy your life.
Yeah. That is such a wonderful sharing to wrap up the podcast. Thank you so much, Kathryn. And it is a big step to have bariatric surgery, but it's so worth it. And the vast majority of people say they wish they'd done it sooner, but we don't live like that. You do it when it's right for you. So wonderful. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you in the boot camp, and we'll keep in touch. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this episode. If you've got to this point, you've got to the end, you've listened to the lovely Kathryn, sharing her journey and sharing more about right from the beginning, getting support. If you would like to know more about my coaching support, DM me the word apply or boot camp or just any message, and I chat to people with no pressure or obligation to get to know each other and also see if I'm the right person for them. If you do enjoy my podcast, because I don't advertise my podcast, I would love you to share it with anyone else that you feel may find value in this podcast. I would love that. I'd appreciate it. If you do share it on social media, please tag me and I will give you a personal shout out here in the podcast. So thank you so much. And I really look forward to being back in your ears next week. Bye for now. Bye, Kathryn.